Hey everyone, hope you're doing well with whatever you're doing at the moment. I wanted to make a short video on self-taping, not actually about the acting side of doing the self-taping, all the nitty-gritty before, during, and after. Some of the details you might miss, and for me, stuff I get to overanalyze and make lists about, which is just right for my personality type. So let's talk about the acting really quickly. I would say that for non-commercial self-taping, so it's a film or a short film, something like that, realistic and honest acting for screen, all of that training and skill comes into play there. Checking your eye lines, making sure that your eyes are visible, and if you're talking to one character, having it set, something to look at, something specific, maybe even having something on the wall or something set up to look at. If you have a reader, that would be great. Look them in the eye. Having the shot or the frame, being able to clearly show your face. Some people prefer a mid shot. Check the brief. They might ask you specifically what they want. What I've got now, maybe this or a little wider. That might be good for you. If you get the script, and the script doesn't quite work for you because it jumps between it jumps to another scene in between as a flashback or something. I have done some scripts edits where I just combine maybe a large chunk of text into another chunk of text so it's borderline a monologue, or I just make it so that I don't have to do a bunch of miming or something like that, making whatever I'm doing on screen for the self-tape less fill in the blank for the watcher of, oh, he's supposed to be doing this, something like that. Make it as useful to you as you can without completely changing it, of course, and adding a bunch of lines, things like that. I'd also suggest maybe doing a second take that's not script perfect in case you need to add a line to bridge the gap. Anyway, while you're not talking, if you have a reader, reacting is acting is reacting, so that you're not waiting for your line. And I thought I told you, yeah, basic stuff like that. There are much better people to ask about self-tape acting than me. I want to talk about the boring stuff, which for me is really fun. So, equipment. What do you need to film a self-tape? Some people might say you need a great camera. I disagree. I think a camera is useful, but you can use a camera phone, it's not 2003 anymore. You can use your iPhone, your whatever. I don't use my iPhone because I do have a DSLR which has much better quality and also has a removable memory card. We'll get to that in a sec. But iPhones these days, especially the more modern ones, the more recent ones, they have excellent picture quality. And then you can either send that file itself via email, whatever, or you can send that to your editing software. We'll get to that later. So a camera, let's say it's a DSLR, or it's a camera that is just a camera. It'll probably have a removable SD card, which is really useful for plugging into your computer or whatnot to then edit it. We'll get to editing in a minute. You might want a tripod. Now, tripod is just to get it level where you want. Right now, while I'm filming this, I have a short tripod. It's about this tall, and it's got bendy legs. It's like a knockoff GorillaPod thing, and that's purely because my big tripod, at its shortest, is too tall for filming on this table. But usually I use that because I'm standing up doing a tape. When I'm recording on my camera, I have a microphone that plugs into the camera. It's a little Rode mic that goes on top of it. They're pretty common. You've probably seen them. It gets pretty good, and it's a directional mic, a shotgun mic. It gets pretty good audio quality, much better than the inboard. But again, use what you've got. Don't bankrupt yourself. But if you can use those things, it will skyrocket the quality. If you can get a background like a sheet or a green screen if that's necessary, they can be useful. If not, a plain background, preferably something that is a neutral color like gray, black, or white, that doesn't wash you out, but is not distracting. I don't have a good wall in my house, honestly, but I do have a wall that has a door frame in it that I use, and it's the best that I've got. And it's plain, it's white, you can just see a little bit of a line out from the door frame that I close. And for your clothing and your costuming, check the brief. If they're asked for something, give an indication of that. You don't have to dress up in a three-piece suit if you're playing a Victorian gentleman. Maybe just a jacket or a collared shirt, something like that. For me, if I'm playing like an office worker or something like that, I often wear a polo shirt, like a black polo shirt. It's got a tiny bit more importance than a t-shirt, but it's not a dress shirt. Give an indication of the costume of the character. They're not expecting you to have all of these things, like a sports uniform or something like that. It can also be distracting. I listened to a podcast called Action with Lee Foster, and he's talked about auditions, in-person auditions, that he's gone to and seen people dressed to the nines in their construction worker outfit, complete with hole digging equipment that's like 6 feet long. It's like, that is unnecessary. Shooting the tape. So you know your lines, you've got a reader organized, preferably. You can do some services online if you can't get one in person. I think one in person is the best. Obviously, with everything that's going on now, a little tricky. I live alone. Makes it hard. First, set up your tripod, check your frame, check where you are. If you're like me and lucky enough to have a reversible display on your DSLR, that makes things infinitely easier. Otherwise, you have to kind of go back and forth. So check that with whatever equipment you have. Make sure that you're in focus. Make sure that you can be heard. So if your microphone is on, I'll show you. I'll take it off. Is the mic on? Because I have made that mistake before. Right now I'm recording the audio for this video separately to what I usually use on my camera. I just want to see if it sounded better. So I'm using a vocal microphone through an XLR cable into a music recording software, but that's a separate thing. Do a few takes. If they ask for multiple takes, make sure you do them. Do something different in each take. Stick to the script for at least one of them, if not all of them, word perfect. Watch yourself. You know, you kind of have to, even if it's just for the technical stuff. Are you in focus? Can you be heard? If not that, then, you know, are you doing something different in each take? Things like that. And if they ask for it, definitely do, but I would also include a slate of some kind. I usually do mine at the end, unless asked to do them in the front. So that would be like hi, my name's Matthew James French. I'm 24 years old. I'm represented by, or whatever information they ask for. Maybe height, weight, whatever. And I got this idea of my friend Joel Stephen Fleming, who's a director who cut one of my early self-tapes, show reels, to have a visual end slate, as in a picture, your headshot, your name, your agent, or your email, or something like that, so they can just see at a glance, all right, that's what they look like, and the contact info. Right, so that would come into play when we're editing. Now, make it easy on yourself when you're recording. So if you hit record and then give it a sec so that you can cut out the crap at the start you don't need, and then start your tape, and at the end, don't go done, cut, because I like to do a little fade in, a little fade out, like a very quick one, just to smooth the edges, and doing that can help you out. When you're editing, I would suggest using your best take first. The first 15 seconds are the main thing people are going to be paying attention to. And I would do the slate at the end unless asked to do it at the front. Again, because I would rather get to the meat of the actor rather than have to sit through the hello, my name's, if I can get past that. Again, little fade in, fade outs. I use Premiere Pro. It's very easy to do quick little fade in, fade outs just to smoothly go between the clips and the start. And I do that with the audio as well, just so it's a bit less abrupt for the watcher. And check the file size and the length if they've asked to keep it to a smaller size for downloading, everything like that. You might have to reduce the image quality a little bit, the file size. I'm not the best at recommending how to do that, so you might have to look that up separately. I'm sorry. But again, trimming the fat will reduce the size, will reduce the length of the clips and the tape overall, and therefore the file size. When you have done, you've exported it, label it. Label it with your name, with the project, or however they've asked to be labeled. Be very specific. I always have my name on the clip as well as the project or the character name or both. It usually depends on what they've asked for, but making it super clear what it is and who you are, so that when they're looking up your name, or if they're looking up the project, the tapes and everything, there's no margin for error. And when you're sending it, you're probably going to need to send it, it's probably going to be too big for your email. So I would send it by a service like WeTransfer, which is free for files under 2 gigabytes, I'm fairly sure. And I use that for pretty much all of my tapes. So I would use that. So just as a quick summary, you're acting for screen, but it's condensed. So make sure that everything is clear, both in a technical sense, and then you're connected to your reader or whatever you're using as an anchor. You can go lower budget, easier, things like a phone, and then you can bring it up a little bit with external microphones, external cameras, lighting. I didn't even talk about that, backdrops and things like that, all for the sake of just upping the quality. But the acting is the most important, as long as we can see and hear it. Then when you're shooting it, do a few takes, check the filming quality of it, because for most of us actors, we're not necessarily camera people too, so be aware of that. And I would do a verbal slate at the end in a separate clip, not acting. Hi, I'm jumping out of it. I would do the acting, cut, and then do another clip where you do your slate. And then when you're editing it, trim the fat. I do a little fade in, fade out for the clips to sort of smooth the edges. It's like, think of it like sanding wood, just smoothing the corners a little bit. Best take first. Make sure the file isn't too big, and label it well. Label it properly, and send it by something like WeTransfer. If you can even choose the thumbnail for the clip, which depends on whether you have to upload it to Vimeo or YouTube instead of WeTransfer, that's another option. I would do that picture and slate of headshot of you with your name and contact details, so they go, that's who that is. Cool. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little video about self-tape details. I really like making little lists like this of kind of preparation checklist type things. So I might do some more, but I didn't want to talk about the acting for self-tape as if I'm some acting guru. That's the job of someone else. I've still got to work on my own, and that's what this isolation might be good for, sharpening the axe. Alrighty, so thanks very much for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you next time. All the best with your self-tapes and isolation, everything. Alright, bye.